Hello, Chris. Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Good to see you again. I think this is my second appearance, I believe.
Yes, it is. I think a second proper appearance, but we have been in contact long.
Oh, for many years. With all the great work with your book you did as well. So
Yeah,
kudos
yeah,
for that.
yeah. I think as we have just mentioned that this is a second podcast, just to tell my audience that Chris was the first one like 5 years back when I published my book. You were the first one who connected with me. So
Oh, thank
the first video call, we did not recorded it. It was with you, and which gave me some courage to start talking to people. And
you.
that led to our gang, which is Marek, Emma, Daniel. I did,
I know many of them, yes, as well.
yeah,
It's a good gang you've got.
yeah, yeah. So that gang, without recording, we went for 3 years.
Yeah,
And only last year I started recording it formally. And I already got 75 episodes.
I know you're doing well. I think I'm like 80 or something, but I've been doing it longer. So yeah, you've hit the ground running hard, as they say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm already booked till end of April weekly basis.
It's good. I haven't found time recently, so I think I haven't done one for a month or so. But I need to get back to it, and obviously get you on the show as well. So we'll get that solved soon.
Yeah, the soul of these sessions, I think you also do that and you would agree that learning face to face, there's no comparison actually. You end up learning so many things, latest technologies, latest trends.
Yeah, at least at the moment, when you see these video webinars, he's actually a real person.
Yeah.
With most of the posts out there, you can tell that it's not content being created. But I use it as well. It's great for enrichment, but I don't think you should let it take or create your own ideas.
Hmm.
That you need to start with something, and that has to be yours. You can build on top of it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. And the other day I was just doing some research which told me that this resume concept, CV concept, is
Mhm.
terribly failing. Reason being, everybody can pick up the JD and
Yeah,
ask Chat AI to create a super good resume.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
these poor hiring managers and recruiters are having a very tough time to evaluate the individual, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, these challenges are there. So that's why face to face is super cool.
Yes, definitely. And I do a lot of the meetups as well, which is really nice to have that personal. A bit far for you to come because they're in London, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if you're up in London, obviously it'd be great to have you there. But yeah, you can't beat an in-person connection and event. So yeah.
Awesome. So as we were just discussing that there is nothing more than learning when you talk on face to face. And when you talk face to face, you end up learning those things which you never learn in books or never learn in YouTube pre-recorded sessions. And that is what brings us to our topic, which is context layer. So I think again you have
Yes, it
come up
is.
with this topic name. I never heard it before. Tell us about this topic.
So it all started probably beginning of this year. There's a lot of talk and chatter on LinkedIn around ontologies, vector databases, knowledge graphs, and semantic layer 2.0. And everyone keeps talking about these things, and there's arguments going on. Oh no, semantics came from the 90s. It's not the same now, or it's different for AI than it was BI. And some things get me angry or not angry, but like flick a switch. I'm thinking, look, come on, guys. Like, why are you all arguing over these things? Because the business who we're trying to get to use these products or use these frameworks or approaches, they're not going to have a clue what we're talking about. And so I have internally we have what we call our LEIT platform blueprint, and we're always reviewing it and looking at a functionally agnostic view of a platform and what's needed to deliver it in certain scenarios.
Hmm.
And I would say something called a delivery layer, just where you accessed it. And I thought, okay, well, what everyone's talking about is context, and you think everyone's talking about context now. Context is king, I think, as I like to say. And all of those semantic 2.0, vector database, they're providing the ability to give context to the consumer of the data. And so I think Shane Gibson as well, you may have come across him as well.
Oh,
And great guy. He's moving from New Zealand back to the
yeah,
UK.
he's in the UK, yeah.
And I think he joined in on the same thread. It was one cicada thread actually originally. And yeah, he said, "Oh, I think it's a context plane," and we've been having a bit of a to and fro, and saying it's a plane, it's a layer, and to be clear, I didn't really care what it was called. It was the objective was to be able to explain to business users what you wanted to achieve by using maybe some technologies and frameworks. And I think he called it a context grid, I think he called it, or context plane, I think of it. And he was saying, okay, because you have to distribute. I'll go back into what context is, or what I put into this layer in a minute.
Yeah,
But you'd have to distribute whatever that context is to different places. I mean, it's still as a distribution mechanism for said context, whether it's a layer, whether it's a plane, whether it's a grid, doesn't really matter. So let me break down what I collectively, and it's evolving, and I'm sure there's more things that go into it as well. But what collectively makes up this context layer, and the components I saw building up there, and the easy one, a semantic layer. Semantic layers are cool again. I started in this industry longer ago than I like to admit, but working for Cognos. Cognos had a catalog, a semantic layer. Business Object had a universe, a semantic layer. And it was just the norm. You had these things. They were very time consuming. They required a lot of effort to maintain. It became like a single point of a bottleneck. So you had to have the person doing the semantic modeling get that done before users could get access to the data. But they provided rich context to reporting, to how joins are made, to business context. So they were very useful. And if you move on from that, what things can provide as context? We've got our good old data catalogs. Data catalogs have been around for a while. Again, very labor intensive to maintain them. People, well, they get neglected and they're forced upon by a governance team. Goes, you need to use our catalog, but they don't add any value to the actual user or the developer working on it. They'll add value later. So it was very hard to get the adoption. And I think AI is changing that, because I think you can automate a lot of that stuff. Then you had, catalogs have moved on as well. You have now technical catalogs and business catalogs. Glue's been around for a while, but Databricks got one, Snowflake's got one. Everyone's got a technical catalog now as well. But there's much more there's much more than just that provides context. And if you think about business processes, so business processes provide context: who's using the data, when they're using that data, how they use that data, where the data came from, where the data went to. It's a very rich source of business context, but no one really. I don't think they're well documented in companies, let alone captured and stored and used for analysis. And then you've got some technical implementation. So you've got knowledge graphs, you've got vector databases that can help store that context and provide that context in a performant way for the use cases or the downstream systems that use it. But then there's other contexts of lineage. I like to use the word provenance as well.
Yeah.
So where that data's come from, the freshness of that data, the associated quality of that data, and the rating of that, is that the best source of that data? The provenance, like in the art world, you want to make sure that your Rembrandt is a real Rembrandt. You chase it back to not that I'm into art or anything like that, but so and I think it goes on even more than that, because your policies and security provide context. The data model. I think that's we've talked about this for a while. Data modeling became cool again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the first foundation of context in the data world we live in. I think there's much more focus on performing data modeling and having some sort of standards and naming conventions. But having naming conventions provides more context to automate stuff. So I think I call it. I think I referred to it. The metadata is what I talked about a few years ago, and this is exactly it. Context is metadata. It's data about the data that provides you more accurate ability to make the correct decisions on on your data. I play around a lot now. I've picked up a bit of a vibe coding issue, prediction maybe should we say. It started a bit of research. We use it internally, do a lot of automation for the company, and as part of that, I'm running Llama locally on my Mac. I've got open API connections. I can run anything up in the cloud. I've got Cursor. I can run many models on that. I've got Perplexity now, actually, that I can go and connect for an MCP server as well. And I've got ChatGPT locally installed as a desktop app, which I can actually pull from Cursor as well. So I did a post of it. I've got more models than Milan at the moment. So, but it's how efficient you get to use, or the best results you get from those models, is based on the context you're providing it. Context in the way of prompts. Prompt engines, how you can make sure your prompt engine's giving the right context to the use case that it's got. And if you're able to get some good results out, I can tell you this now, if you can get some good results out of Llama locally running on your machine, which isn't too far behind there, you must have really provided the best context out there. And if you can provide the best context to something that's running, a cheaper alternative, it means when you go and run it on some of these very expensive models, you're going to get the best bang for your buck from it. So, and it all comes down to the context. So I suppose I'll pause a little bit because I've just done a full-on monologue. So,
No.
what's your views, Saf, of this? Have you heard of this sort of like concept before?
Actually, we all work on context, and as you mentioned, which is very correct, that until unless you don't tell chat your context is going to hallucinate like anything. The more context you give, the lesser the hallucination is there. Although OpenAI just released a formal, report that hallucination is never going to be 100% fixed. So
No.
yeah, so we all already knew that. I don't know why salespeople never knew that, but we already knew that, right? So so when I hear or a third person layman hear about context layer, right? The only thing comes into my mind, it was a semantic layer, by the way. When you were saying that, so I was thinking that you are generalizing semantic layer that, hey, whatever we are creating the last layer of the output, that has to map with the business context, what they want to see, right?
So but semantic layers, by definition, when they came about, they were to drive BI use cases. AI didn't exist when semantic layers were developed, and they haven't got all the same dimensions to it that what I'm referring to as a context layer. A context layer has, because there's so much more information that's needed by AI to understand how to use it, when to use it, and it's even what models to use it for. What operation you're doing to what models are best. The best scenario. You talked about hallucination. Building test cases in there to prevent, and those test cases need context to build the best firewall against you getting incorrect data or bad context provided to models. Whereas before bad data gave you bad results, bad context give you very bad builds. So you run it on, and not only that, you're actually getting poor results for the large. I know this. I blew about $150 one weekend on OpenAI credits because I thought I had something running okay, and I thought, let's go, let's just release it and let's let it all off, and then realize, maybe I should have done a bit more tuning before that. And yeah, I think now
Yeah.
tuning is context. Yep.
Yeah, so see, when people can ask, right, we are introducing a new layer of context, which is a context layer. A generic question can come, hey, we already have so many layers. We are fed up of data modeling layers, right? Right. The other day I posted, right, there are 33 types of data modeling techniques, right? People think, hey, that is the reason we never want to go into data modeling. I said, you want to or you do not want to. You need a data modeling, right? So now when you bring context layer on top of it, so how
Yeah.
do you defend that we really need it? If I see
So
on top of my head, I do see don't have a context,
yeah,
whatever comes out, you have to spend number of hours or days to test it, whether it is
yeah.
correct or not. So it does make
So
sense to me, yeah.
yeah, I think if people say, "Do we need it or not?" You've got it anyway, right?
Yeah.
It exists,
Of
and this is not a not well. The first time I don't believe this is not a vendor driven concept. All
course.
right, so it's not some vendor going right. We're going to invent something a context layer. We're the first. No, it's well for me. It's conceptual. It's a way of thinking, and it's a way of getting the business to understand what the hell we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And unless we can actually have the way to provide the right context and communicate what a context layer is and why it's important to be thinking of context. And yeah, Jessica Talisman, fantastic, ontologies, knows it inside out. There's a it's scary to think of, it's a very big topic. And I think to try and to try and categorize it into something and say, look, you may not need an ontology from day one. You probably need a business counter from day one, but it's working up that build up the level of maturity of your context management or your context layer. And you could probably put it into groups as well of what these sort of bits of context. So you've got structural and logical context, and that's the ontologies, the DDLs, the relationships. You've got your business processes or business context, which are your business processes, catalogues as such, any service level agreements that have been agreed for any of those business processes. Operational context, it's lineage, quality, freshness, policies, who using it, when they're using it, how they're using it. I suppose even from a security aspect, should they be using it? And then you've got, I tell you, your knowledge and the AI context. That's your model metadata. That's your instructions, your prompt engine, as well as your knowledge graphs and vector databases that are going to help deliver that. But the more and more I think about it, the more and more errors I see that this context-aware infrastructure. Imagine that. Okay, right. And I think that's sort of coming out now already. There's some products out there. You tell it what you want. I want a web server that's doing this. It needs to be in this location. I'm going to be doing a Black Friday on this event here. I do my sales site. Right. Okay. I'll build you scalable infrastructure that is going to be efficient to service what you want. And guess what? If it changes, I'll change it for you. Bang, but it's been given context of what it's to do and how it's to do it, and then you're giving it context in relation to rules to say how it needs to behave in certain circumstances. So, I think it's not going to take all our jobs. I think it just makes us more efficient.
Yeah, so on
But
this point, right,
mm,
a question can come, who is going to own it? Because you're going to declare it, right? You, as you mentioned, correctly said, it is
yeah,
already
yeah,
there right now, but there
yes,
is no honor. But the moment you declare it, bring it under one umbrella term,
yeah.
somebody need to own it. So who will own it?
That's a really good question, actually, and I don't normally get caught out like this, but I don't. I don't think it's one person. It cannot. It can never be one person or one team because you're going to get to that single point of failure or the fact that. So I call it context management. Okay, so you need the ability to there'll be some technical components that are owned by the technical teams. Okay, there's going to be some business components that are going to be owned by the business teams. I think the thing that's missing is these things all exist and they're already owned by these people. It's the ability to bring all that context into one place to manage it, verify it, and then distribute it to where it's needed.
Then
So,
centralized management do come into picture, right?
sorry, then centralized. Well,
Okay.
so
Centralized management.
So yeah, it's this whole decentralized versus centralized thing. I think you need to have a centralized distribution mechanism, but
Correct.
a decentralized subscription mechanism and feedback loop into it. And yeah, probably more to think on this one of how you
Yeah.
do
So
that.
yeah,
But go on.
just to bring this additional item into, right. I think we are going into the same direction. When federated approach came in from centralized, people thought centralized piece will go away. So I'm always uh, advocate that centralized will still be there, because centralized does not mean that everyone will do in one place. No, centralized can be
Yeah,
a governance. Centralized can be a one place which can trigger everything. Yes,
Yeah,
you have to manage it. You have to have a HA. You have to have a DR. High availability need to be there, but the centralized will become smaller and smaller. But I
yeah.
think even in federated approach, centralized will still be there, and rest products will be here and there. Everything management
This
will be
it's
there.
hub and spoke. It's like a hub and
Yes,
spoke sort of architecture.
yes,
So
yes.
you're going to have your hub that's going to have to collect it all, but then the spokes to be able to deliver it, but also bring it back or bring any additional or updates that may happen
Correct.
or cleansing that happens to it. Um, so and I suppose another thing is the layers that you build up on top. And I talk about data modeling or data models being the beginning of it. And good naming standards in a good data model means that you can actually put automation or metadata driven approaches in there. So thing we've banged on for ages, have a good naming standard. Now there's a really good reason to, because you can actually have a lot of things automated off this and be more accurate with that automation. So you can automate things. Normally all my dims and end with a dim, or sometimes they end with a D, or sometimes they begin with a D, or sometimes they begin with a dim. But you have to build up all those rules to go
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to go in and to do that. Whereas if you knew that it had been, or even as part of your test cases, you get part of your DBT model testing, it makes sure it gives the right context. You've got a context check on it, or your manifest files, it's got a context check on it. So I think the more you start thinking about this, the less burden it becomes, because you can put a lot of these things in place that they're low cost, low hanging fruit. But by doing them, they provide a force multiplier effect. I say the sum of the parts here is worth much. Sorry, the sum of the parts is worth much more than the individual pieces, especially in the right order, because they can unlock other capabilities or other functionality. So, and there's probably many ways of looking at this, but I think it always starts with data modeling. It begins with that, right? And we are talking about data. Even if it's unstructured data, it needs a model. It needs some taxonomy. It needs something. And then I think that provides the foundation of meaning. So on top of that, you can build on top of that. You can build different. You can have different industry specific naming for that same meaning. I always use the word a party. A party being an organization, or being an individual. It's a party, but you can have some role playing versions for it. And I think the semantic alignment we talk about provides that shared vocabulary. You can all talk in the same language now with each of the right people that are in your area. Yeah, and then that context layer provides that operational knowledge fabric. Come up with some cool words, a bit of fabric in there as well. You've got to have a fabric or a mesh somewhere, haven't you? So each of those things gradually builds up more opportunities, more more quality, and better decisions that can be made from it.
So, so a question comes, right, when you talk about this context layer. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where you are going is this will become super important in the era of agentic AI, because
Yes, 100%.
100%, right? That's where the idea
Yep,
came, because agent will come and
yep.
do their own thing. You won't know what they're doing. So someone has to
No,
tell that. So this context
yes,
will be one which will be guiding them, directing. Am I in the right direction?
Yeah, it's spot on. And it's right now your business processes that are running agents now rather than people. Each of those agents will need to be given the right context to perform the role that they're performing. And there's an operational sort of context. Run on this model at this time. The whole batch versus real time. That it's not on the critical path. Just run it on a background cheaper model. It doesn't need to use the Google's TPUs for that. So you can use something more moderate.
Yeah.
And and then after that you distribute that context to where that agent is located. So it is. I suppose agents are no different than individuals. Individual people, they need to be given the context of what they're doing. And if you don't give them the context, for example, you get a new employee, go and do that. They may guess, do what they think they need to be done.
Okay.
And it's this. Yeah.
I have a say into that. I'm not a big believer. Maybe I should not be saying this on my podcast, but let me throw it out. I'm not a big fan of sharing the context or the clear output to all team members of yours. Somehow, what I feel is lead need to know up to the level of context they need to know. Lead need to know their level, and C level need to know their level. The moment you go at a developer level, right? If you give them a biasness, I think that normally impacts their development, right? So a lead need to know its own context. Okay, I'm building a module for procurement, so that lead need to know the context of that. But the moment the lead tells to the development, it only directs them. I think where I'm coming towards is with agents within agentic AI system, because agents, in my point of view, will do the task, not will replace the role. Role need to know the context, not the task. What do you think about it? It's just a wild
And it's a brilliant thought, and it's just triggered some ideas myself. Is the fact that so if you just want something to do what you want it to do and nothing else, have no self-improvement, self-awareness, or anything like that, I think you're right. This task, do this, don't do anything else, don't think, don't tell me I'm wrong, don't fix interfere, do that. I don't think that's where we're going. I think if you're doing that, you're never learning from it because you're just giving.
Yeah.
So you need a feedback loop.
I'm referring multiple layers, by the way. I'm saying there'll be multiple layers of agents. The lowest layer you need to.
And maybe you're right on that. Yes, on that lowest layer, because you're getting that feedback via a different route, or it doesn't require. It's so simple. It's like a case statement or something like that, and it doesn't need any feedback. But the thing is, you talk about teams and things like that. The more context. For example, you get told to do something, you do it, all right? And you keep getting told to do it, and you think, this is stupid. Why am I keep doing this? But you keep doing it. If you're not able to have visibility of the rationale and reasoning why you've been told that, if I'd known that, I would have really realised that I should have, I realised why I'm doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't, of course it makes sense. But without that, you're just following orders, and no one likes just following orders. They want to know why they're doing it. So where people are involved, I think, they need to be given the right context, but I think they need to be given enough context to know why they're doing it and for what reason. Because if you don't know where, I think I've talked about it, everyone's a cog of the wheel. Everyone's a cog in a big engine, right? And and you're all doing something to help your business achieve what it wants to. Sometimes you feel either underappreciated or you think, I don't know why I'm doing this. But if you see that collectively, without you doing what you do, the engine doesn't work. You feel you have a place. You feel you have a role. You feel needed. You feel that, and quite rightly so, you are. But it's been verified, and you can see where you. But also, you can actually understand how things can be improved or things go wrong. So you can give context of how things get fixed. So, I think just the right amount of context at the right time is probably what you need to. Because
that is where I'm going, right? Because normally when I look into data, for me, data is a human communication, right? So everything starts from human, whatever humans do, they try to replicate into the technologies. So that is where I see the hierarchies, right? The C level
Mm.
have a different context because C level is looking at a group level. Maybe group level is one on top of C level. They have a
Yep.
different context of the whole business. They might not take, so they might have multiple businesses, and maybe they have a bank. They don't care about the financial system, but they want to
Yep.
manage their other businesses, and they build a banking. So, but the people who are sticking inside the banking, they think they are managing everything. No, you are just one
Yep.
business. So their context is different. So within
Yep.
bank you go, there are multiple departments. Every
Hmm.
department has their own context. Now keep going down,
Yep.
keep going down.
Yep.
Now this is
Yep.
an hierarchy, taxonomy, not even ontology. It's a taxonomy of the hierarchy.
Yep.
I think that is
Yep.
where agentic AI system should come in. I feel
Yep.
that hierarchies of agents. So
Hmm.
every
Yep.
agent, because if you end up telling each and every agent to learn, to adopt, to think, I think the processing power you have to give to thousands of agents. Someone says
Well,
there'll be, yeah,
yep, you're right. Yeah, you so I'm playing around. Yeah, the bigger your prompt, the more tokens it uses, the less
yeah,
tokens it
yeah,
has
yeah,
to actually provide the results. So yeah, you can bloat your prompts so they become, well, they have negative effects. So and in the same way as you want everything to be efficient and you're giving it the right context. So, but this is where you maybe have in your hierarchy, you have like a manager agent who comes in and checks on the other agents, go, how you doing? You're right, how's your thing? Here's your performance review, by the way, you're doing well, okay, you keep going. And maybe that's sort of roles that will happen there is the fact that you just get these worker agents doing their stuff, but you go in and check on them, make sure they're okay,
correct, correct.
and look at the logs. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was hearing some example. Someone the other day put it into my podcast that a report says one CEO was telling that there will be maybe 1 billion agents in one organization XYZ. So when you talk about now, you have to map it with the ROI, you have to map it with the processing. So if you let all 1 billion agents to think, adopt, learn, your ROI is never going to meet.
Yeah.
Out of
Yeah. Yeah.
those 1 billion, there'll be, I think, 3 to 4% which will be thinking. The rest will all be like working agents, right? What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I just have never thought. Is when companies scale and you have 1,000 employees, not all the 1,000 employees are probably providing the value that they need, and there's probably quite a few of them that are hiding underneath the others so they can get away with it. Maybe the same with agents. Agents think, I hope they don't find out I'm not doing anything. I'm going to have to. I don't want to be turned off. I'm going to pretend I'm doing stuff. I'm going to use CPU so it just looks like I'm doing something. You know, um, yeah, and if you get to stage you're getting, I think this whole new concept. If you get to the stage of you've got that billions of agents, is you'd work out, well, do you need that many agents? And if you have that many agents, that means you've got that much context management, and if you've got that much context. So I think you probably need to group the agents into groups of what they're doing
Yes.
to the
Yes.
profiles of them and say, agent pools, you've because in an organization you've only got so many hats. I think the agents would fall into those number of hats that are there and maybe differ per industry or what have you. But if you're getting to 80 or a load of billions of unique agents all doing different things, and that's you've got a lot of moving parts, and you're going to have a very big bill, I think.
So you need that, they call it autonomous management layer, something like that, which will
Mhm.
be the centralized layer, which will be like hub and spoke. It will be a hub
Yeah.
managing everything. So I think this we have covered this whole piece
Mm.
in a great manner, and I could understand what this context layer here.
It's easy. You're a clever guy. You can understand these things. Yeah. So.
Now we need to tell in such a way that people can also understand, and they can
Yes.
see the whole idea of my podcast is they should go back and start
Yeah.
doing something.
And it's the business people when you take it, and this is where there's a lot of concern out there and the execs, well, one they're just going with a hype and going, right, sack all the staff, get agents in, you know, maybe other departments are a bit more cautious as well. And you know, and when we're talking about this stuff to them, we need to be providing a language that understands what it's about and removing the, you know, the jargon or the BS that we seem to add to it that is either vendor led or just because we are technical people and we like talking about technical stuff. So that's our default position. And yeah, I think that the more we can understand the audience that are going to be the decision makers, that are actually going to, you know, sign off the checks for your investments in your project.
Yeah.
You need to talk their language and talk
Yeah.
to them in a way that they're going to understand the benefits and why to do it and which order to add these things. So,
Okay.
which is my next thing I'm just talking about now is about C levels, business value, and how you actually articulate getting a business case together to go and get this stuff. Which maybe we'll talk about that next time. So
maybe I'm going to book you maybe 2-3 quarters from now. Actually,
cool. There you go.
nowadays I'm booking, for
You're
example,
so popular. Yeah.
next year.
So
I will book you
yeah.
same day, same date next year, so you have 1 year hold.
Okay. It was great because you know I've been traveling around. I've been in New York, so we were trying to work out to do it at the time I'm over here. But I'm based over in London now, pretty much permanently though. So it's easier to do on the time zones. But yeah, thank you for reminding me. Chris, we got the thing on Friday. So.
Okay. Yeah, Chris, thank you so much
Really.
for bringing a new topic onto the podcast, a rare one, a new one. People, food for thought for other people to look into it. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. And
thank you very much.
catch up again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.